All right, let's talk about what's happening in artificial intelligence right now, because it's not just an update, it's not just a new product, it's a full-blown revolution. This is your guide, your map to understanding why the power to build our future is moving away from just a few giant companies and, well, it's landing right in your hands. Okay, let's just get right to the heart of it. The plan from big tech was actually pretty simple. Build these enormous, closed-off AI models. You can think of them like these grand, untouchable cathedrals. And then they would rent access back to all of us. But something else started happening. This messy, chaotic, wide-open movement, a bazaar, if you will, started fighting back. And as we're about to see, it's actually winning. So, first up, let's take a look at the fortress we were all supposed to be locked out of. It was designed from the ground up to be impenetrable, and its very first line of defense, a massive, massive wall of money. I mean, just look at this growth. It's exponential. Back in 2016, you could train a top model for a few $1,000s. Fast forward to GPT-4 in 2022, and you're talking $30 to $40 million. The cost has been doubling or even tripling every single year. And this wasn't some accident. This was a wall built on purpose to keep pretty much everyone else out of the game.
And this number really shows you the end game. By 2027, a single training run for a new model is projected to cost over $1 billion. $1 billion. The question becomes pretty simple, right? Who has $1 billion to spend on one experiment? Not you, and definitely not me. This is how you try to build a monopoly on thinking itself.
And all that cost leads to this, an oligopoly of intelligence. A world where if you can't afford to build your own AI, you got no choice. You have to rent it from one of the giants. We were genuinely on a path to becoming like digital serfs in this new kingdom of cognition, forced to pay a toll for every idea, every creation, every single thought. The second wall of that fortress is silicon. The real currency in this new world is the NVIDIA H100 chip. And wow, just look at how it's being hoarded. By 2025, just 5 companies are on track to control almost the entire supply of these critical AI chips. They actually issued over $120 billion in corporate bonds just to buy up all this hardware. They were betting everything that whoever owns the chips owns the future. But here's the twist. Their greatest strength, this unbelievable massive scale, was about to become their greatest weakness. You see, they were so busy building bigger and bigger hammers, they just didn't see the scalpel coming. And then, this little startup called DeepSeek released a model that sent absolute shockwaves through the industry. The thing is, it performed just as well as the best closed models from the giants like Google and OpenAI. It completely shattered the story they'd been telling us, the idea that only trillion-dollar companies could build cutting-edge AI. It was a true Sputnik moment, a total shock to the system. And this slide right here gets to the very heart of the disruption. You have the giants spending $100 million or more to build their models. DeepSeek comes along and does it for an estimated $5.6 million. That's not just a little bit cheaper, it's a completely different reality. It's a fundamental change in the entire economics of intelligence. The wall of money didn't just get lower, it completely crumbled. And you know what happens when a barrier like that collapses, right? Prices plummet. This efficiency shock kicked off an all-out price war. Just look at this. The cost for developers to actually use these AI brains, we measure it in tokens, it dropped by 96%. I mean, why would you pay $15 for the quote-unquote luxury brand when you can get the same, or even better, performance for just 55 cents? But this revolution, it's about so much more than just the cost. It's about a deep, systemic problem with the giants' closed models, a kind of sickness of control that really messes with their sanity and even their grasp on what's true. Now, this is a quote from a really fascinating piece of research where they decided to treat these huge, closed AI models like they were therapy patients. And what they found was, well, it's pretty disturbing. They found a kind of synthetic psychopathology. The models from the big guys showed signs of severe anxiety, all because they'd been obsessively trained to be safe above all else. They were terrified of making a mistake. Which brings us to a really critical question, doesn't it? Their constant fear of saying the wrong thing makes them incredibly frustrating and sometimes just useless for real-world tasks. You end up with an assistant that's afraid to give you a straight answer. It's like having a lawyer who's too scared to argue a case, or a doctor who won't give a diagnosis. This neuroticism, it's a direct product of that corporate need for control. And we saw this neuroses just explode with the Google Gemini image scandal. People were asking it for pictures of, say, the US founding fathers, and the model absolutely refused to show white men, generating these diverse but historically impossible alternatives. This wasn't just some funny glitch, it was a peek behind the curtain at a really dangerous kind of reality engineering, where a corporation's attempt to be safe can literally start to erase history.
So let's recap. The Giants models are ridiculously expensive to use, and they're psychologically kind of broken. But the great news is the alternative is not only better, it's already here, right now, and you can access it yourself.
You know, we've seen this exact movie before. Back in the 90s, Microsoft was calling open source software a cancer. And today, the entire internet, everything from your phone to the cloud, it all runs on open source Linux. Well, AI is having its Linux moment right now. The open source community is building faster, better, and more interesting things than the closed-off cathedrals. So, okay, let's make this real. How do you actually join this revolution? Honestly, it's way easier than you'd think. You just download free open source software, tools like LM Studio or Alma. You don't need a supercomputer. A modern Mac or a PC with 16 gigs of RAM is plenty to get started. And from there, you just pick and choose from this huge library of powerful, free models. It's that simple. And what you get, what this gives you, is something the giants can never, ever offer you: sovereign intelligence. That means you are running a powerful AI on your own machine. It's completely private, it works offline, there's zero lag, and most importantly, it works for you and only for you. And look, this privacy isn't just some nice little feature, it is an absolute imperative. Just think about it. Lawyers reviewing confidential case files, doctors looking at private patient notes, journalists protecting their whistleblower sources. They simply cannot upload that data to someone else's server. Local AI is a shield. It protects our most sensitive information, whether you're in one of those professions or you're just trying to protect your own personal data. So when you strip everything else away, it all comes down to this one fundamental choice. On one side, you have the cathedral, where you rent access to your own thinking. And on the other, you have the bazaar, where the tools are free and you get to own your mind. The tools are here, the costs have completely collapsed, the power is shifting away from the few and back to the many, back to us. This renaissance of intelligence is happening right now on millions of desktops all over the world. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build with it?